Hello and welcome to From the Be-All End. I'm Simon Evans, and with me is the usual crew of Claret opinionators, Andrew Greaves, Chris Bowden, Paul Woodhouse and Justin Connolly. And we shall be discussing and picking over the carcass of Newcastle United's 2-0 win over Burnley at St James's Park. Justin Connolly to start us off. Justin, what were your impressions of that performance?
Well, I think it's probably the most disappointing performance of the season so far. I think, to me, they've all been disappointing for different reasons. Even the one where we managed to pick up one of those fabled points that people keep telling us about. But this one feels a bit like it didn't really have any redeeming features. I didn't see much of that progress we keep talking about. So there's no real positives we can fall back on and say, well, at least there was that, you know. It was okay for the first 10 minutes until Eddie managed to work out how to keep Koleosho quiet. And then after that, it was just really all over, wasn't it? The goal was really disappointing to give away. Ramsey's caught in possession by Trippier. And then, you know, Almiron's not closed down to be allowed to get that shot away. And then I just, I thought it might be one of those games where we pull off a daylight robbery sort of last minute equaliser, because you know when it's 1-0 you're still in the game, aren't you? But I couldn't see where a goal was going to come from. The lack of goal threat was quite alarming. I think we've had that a little bit in the last few games, but this one, hopefully that'll improve when Foster gets back. But I thought the penalty was a little bit harsh. I think he did get a bit of the ball, but I can see why it's been given. And then that just put us out of our misery then. That was the end of it, wasn't it? And I've not really been able to come up with any positives apart from maybe Foster made a few, what's he called? Trafford made a few decent saves, didn't he? But then that sort of suggests they had quite a few shots on target. Apart from that, I'm struggling. Anybody else got anything sort of positive to say?
The save, yeah, the Trafford's probably one of the big positives. And I know still people are looking at his distribution sort of matched up to Muric, and I still think Muric is superior in that department. But the save from the header is fabulous. I know he gets a little bit of luck with the save from Isak. You know, he's a little hesitant, but he comes out and he earns his own luck. He smothers the effort and it spins away, and Isak should really turn it in from there. But he's managed to hook it wide. But no, the save from the header is what you're sort of looking at. So why have we spent this money on this goalkeeper? And you look at that save and you think, yeah, that's why. And hopefully he can sort of continue to show us more of that form and build on that. He's certainly getting, plenty of practice at the moment. It's all this. I'm really concerned. Everyone's sort of like pinning their hopes now on Luton away on Tuesday night, and I think unless we can go there and dominate possession and don't give any silly free kicks or corners away, because I think they'll absolutely monster us on set pieces. You look at what they did at Goodison Park yesterday, where Everton have probably had the better chances and not been able to take them, as is Everton's story at the moment. But they've given away two awful goals from set pieces, and that really, really worries me for Tuesday.
I think there is. I was really I was depressed last night because as soon as Justin says he can't find any positives, I was just like, this is my Saturday night ruined now. I mean, it literally, like, I looked to Justin for the positives. I think I'm quite positive compared to the rest of you agenda-driven opinionators, as Sam described you as. But I agree. I think Trafford was a big plus. I think there is a slight kind of weird obsession with his distribution compared to Muric. I think we've got bigger distribution issues. I think the fact that Roberts barely found a Claret shirt, and it's his weird kind of hooked high ball to Ramsey that puts him under pressure for Trippier to pick his pocket. We did get very ragged as soon as they scored. But I think Alderweireld, when he came on, I think is a positive. I think I said in the podcast last week, I'd be almost tempted now to rest Koleosho because his kind of window of effectiveness has gone from kind of 50 minutes to 45 minutes to probably now less than half an hour. And that's not a fault of his, but it's just, whenever he gets here, somebody on Clarets, up the Clarets, I should say, mentioned this. The problem is when he beats a man, there's nobody up with him because nobody's quick enough to get up with him. So we need to try something different. How Zaroury was still sat kicking his heels on the bench until whatever it was when he came on, inside the last 10 minutes, I'll never know. Trying to look for positives because I'm a positive person. Brun Larson, I thought, looked decent when he came on again. He's got that little bit of guile about him, which I quite like. Sander Berger looked decent, probably his best game. But then we've got regression, I think, for Josh Cullen. Josh Cullen. Josh Brownhill. There's a couple of players who really didn't kind of kick on after promising performances against Nottingham Forest. Now, look, don't take anything away from Eddie and his Newcastle side. They are a very good side. They will be top four. I think we said that. I'm convinced they'll be top four because they look good. But we've talked about being too passive at times. After that brilliant start, and Amdouni perhaps a little bit unlucky with his effort, as soon as they scored, I was sat there watching through my hands for most of the game because every time they pushed forward, you just thought, here it is. We got the let off with Isak, we got the let off with the header, and it spun towards goal, and Roberts was able to clear. I'm still kind of refusing to get too panicked. Part of me thinks Foster back against Luton is the tonic we've needed, but I agree with Justin. There weren't many positives. And it's probably the first game, even though we got battered by Spurs, well beaten by Villa, well beaten by City, we were able to find positives because we could appreciate we were still growing and evolving. Now I'm not so sure that we've taken a step forward, as Justin said.
And I think we're starting to develop a pattern, aren't we? We've developed into this side that has this 10 to 15 minutes until the opposition works us out, which with obviously Eddie yesterday was, well, let's just push up a little bit and press them. And then for the next hour, we didn't have a fucking clue what to do. And going back to the Koleosho Ramsey thing, who had a mare between the pair of them for the next hour or so. And it wasn't until Brun Larson came on that somebody actually worked out, well, okay, all I have to do with Dan Burn is turn the bugger. And that's it. Off he went. And it took us an hour to do that and a change of personnel because Dan Burns basically Phil Jones'd it for the first 10 minutes and made Koleosho look extremely decent. Were it not for that, Koleosho would have also had a stinker. And it's this drifting of this game that we don't seem to want to impact, or the management doesn't seem to want to impact for whatever reason that may be, for a good long period up until the second half. That's we me, a little bit more game by game, I think.
Have you been watching game again today?
Yeah, it was fucking worse second time round.
That's commitment.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the issues there in that is that we're trying to play possession football. That's the whole concept, and we're not keeping possession very well, are we? And it's that midfield heart of Cullen and Brownhill in particular aren't able to keep possession, start off moves, keep things ticking over, be the metronome, as the word that somebody on this podcast used for Josh Cullen. If that's not happening, then all we've got really is getting it to the wingers. And then if the wingers are closed down because they've worked out, like we saw Reguilon work out for Spurs, if you get really, really close to Koleosho and really commit to just marking him tight, and don't let him turn and run at you, then he can be neutralised. I mean, there was always that danger with Koleosho. We see this with wingers all the time. I remember when Dwight McNeil first came on the scene, and I was talking to, not to name drop, but, in the press box, talking to Pat Nevin, who was working for the BBC, and I said, hey, what do you think about, Dwight McNeil? And he said, yeah, it's good. I'd be interested to see him next year when everyone's had a look at him, though. Will he still be dancing past people? And it is like that for wingers. And I think people have looked at Koleosho. Eddie looked at him after 10 minutes and decided what they needed to do. But I didn't understand why. I think Woody's right. I didn't understand why we stuck with some things that clearly weren't working, like Ramsey on the left out there, why we stuck with that for so long. You know, it seemed we were still in the game, so I suppose that puts a little bit of a thought in the manager's mind of, well, it's only 1-0, you know, but that was a disappointing side of it for me.
More importantly, Simon, did you speak to Pat Nevin about the Jesus and Mary chain?
We did talk music, actually. We did talk music, and he was very much into sort of dream pop and the Chromatics and people like that. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. good taste, Pat Nevin.
I agree with what you were saying there, Simon, in terms of the. It's almost, there's a stubbornness to Vincent that, you know, is a real positive at times, that, you know, there is this belief that he will get things right. And I've said on this podcast several times, I fully believe that we will come good. I still don't think we're going to get relegated. Someone texted me this morning and said, are we going to get relegated? I said, no, there's no way we're going to get relegated because it will come good. But in the short term, he's all about evolution and progress and things like that. I'm not sure how much a player having a mare is progressing that player and giving him the confidence. We saw it. I don't know if anyone's watched the Ryder Cup this weekend, but, you know, there's been certain American players this weekend where you look and you just go, you just keep sticking, you know, you keep doing the same thing and it's not working. So you've got to try something different. And I think for Benson, you know, Zaroury's on the bench until, you know, 80 odd minutes. You know that actually stick him against Dan Burn, you know, switch it up a bit. You know, we know Amdouni were never really gonna have the same impact as Foster up front. But then, of course, when Jay came on, his game is different to Foster's again. So I do think the biggest problem in
you don't create free chances, do you, Greasy? You don't create free chances, assists, albeit against League Two opposition. And then a lad who wasn't even in the 20 against Manchester United comes on ahead of you. I don't grasp that at all.
I find that's it. These little strange decisions that I 100% agree, Chris. You know, I thought Zaroury was going to be on the team sheet. I thought, right, that's fine. He'll probably drop Goodmanson out, and Zaroury comes in, and that's great. You know, we've settled back with Zaroury being the most kind of exciting of all of the kind of established players we've got. And I don't think anyone would have batted an eyelid. And then when it's kind of like, all right, we're going to play Ramsey. Okay, fair enough. But it's that you've got to change it. If it's not working, you've got to change it. It's what all good managers do. Now, I'm not criticising Vincent at all, but
yeah, you are a bit. No, you
well, yeah, maybe I am.
It's a definition.
You know what I mean? It's kind of I'm trying to find positives, but it's a bit kind of. I don't know. It's like, and maybe it's kind of, well, we want him for Luton. And if he picks up an injury, then, you know, maybe against Luton with a quick turnaround on Tuesday night, we see a different team. And we see that kind of Zaroury comes into it. Foster obviously comes back in. Maybe we see Koleosho drop out. You know, maybe, you know, Goodmanson comes back in for Luton because, you know, you need a bit of experience. But like I say, there's just a few too many players at the minute not doing the basics. And it is the basics, you know, finding a teammate. You know, like I say, I don't want to criticize Roberts because I really like Roberts, but you know,
well, you're about to.
I'm about to, yeah. stick with Tino there, you know, because I think it's Roberts at the minute is just it's not working. You know, he can barely find a Burnley shirt. And you've got, you know, back, and you've got to find, you know, if you've got the ball out wide. There's so even his throw-ins aren't finding Burnley shirts, and it's not like they're kind of like someone's nipped in front. He's throwing it into a space where a Newcastle player can step up and collect the ball, launch another attack, and they're basics. And there's nothing the manager can do about that apart from drop a player, sit him down, let him look at videos and things like that. Do a Woody, watch it again, second time. I mean, that is dedication. I mean, I skip past it on Match of the Day first thing this morning because I couldn't be arsed watching it again.
You're welcome.
If anyone who sat next to me, sort of in the relegation season 2 years ago, anyone who sat next to me will know I wasn't a huge fan of Connor Roberts at this level. Admittedly, he had a good season back in the Championship, but herein lies the sort of the rub of it. Really, you look in the Championship, and the whole sort of the whole philosophy is about where's the space? Find the space. Well, the space, there's less of it in the Premier League, and you know when you've been so many teams respected Burnley from an early period last season without knowing what sort of side we were. They thought they knew what we would be, but we hadn't shown it by that stage. I mean, Hull came riding out at the top of the league and sat off for 90 minutes. It was ridiculous. Scored on the counter and sat in for the rest of the game. Luton did the same, scored early, sat in. Respect from the off, but teams don't grant you that in the Premier League. The pressure is more ferociously, and we can't live with that. I was watching Leicester today at Blackburn and watching Vestergaard look as comfortable as any centre half you'll ever see on the ball. But you will do if you're not getting pressure on you. It's Vestergaard's one of the clumsiest centre halves you'll see. We just haven't got the same time and space. And teams like Woody said, teams push up and they press the life out of you. We're succumbing a bit to that, and again, set plays give me the fear of God.
I do find it quite amusing that Lyle Foster. It's a sign really of when a team is not doing well and when they're struggling. That when a player misses a few games, their stock goes rising and soaring as a result.
Jeff Hendrick's the saviour. He's always the saviour, Jeff Hendrick.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? And it's like a week before the season started, we were like, we've got to sign a centre forward. We've got to sign a centre forward. And now we're like, well, we'll sort Luton out because Lyle's back, And it's we have missed him. And I thought some of the sort of, it's an easy sort of pundit narrative that like Burnley didn't take their chances and stuff. There was only really that one chance. And Amdouni didn't do anything wrong with it, actually. He was slightly behind him from Koleosho. Slightly behind him. He's hit it first time, hit it well, and it was straight at port. Well, that's not a bad miss. And then apart from that, there wasn't a lot else in terms of
the keel header, and that's about it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, there was
header from a set piece, but you've got
that's progress. There's progress. A header from a set piece.
Well, we scored one against Salford, haven't we? That was the thing. So maybe the kind of the positive is a Josh Brownhill set piece, reaching a player in a dangerous position. I don't know.
And it's like I say, it was a harsh, but it is a penalty as well. It was a harsh one, but you can't go to ground against Gordon. He's he's going to milk that situation. But it's one of those. He's had a bit of a sniff at it, and he's just not got enough of the ball, has he? And so you're hoping for Trafford to produce a bit of penalty heroics like in the Euro final, and quality finish from Isak.
Just on Trafford, I thought one of the reasons why he was supposed to be so expensive and such a big signing wasn't for his shot stopping ability, but I thought he was a modern goalkeeper who was really good with his feet and distribution, and I haven't seen anything of that really. Is he just playing it careful, or is he just we're not in a position where the goalkeeper's got time? Going back to what Chris just said, Muric used to be able to stand there for quite a while before pinging a 25-yard pass to feet, didn't he? Whereas, we've seen Trafford have to hoof it into the stands quite a few times because he's being pressed. Is that all it is, or is he perhaps not the goalkeeper we thought we were getting? He's just going to develop into a very good shot-stopping keeper.
Yeah, he's not. He obviously doesn't have the same ability with his feet as Muric does, but he's also not playing in the Championship, and I think he also plays more percentage balls than Muric does. Muric is a far riskier, risk and reward type passer than Trafford is.
Yeah.
And I think you'd see more hospital balls from Muric currently being hit to central midfielders and them getting the ball nipped off them. So I think, I think Muric is turning into another one of these players, weirdly enough, that we're saying out of the side, it becomes absolutely awesome, etc.
Yeah.
It's your keeper. Put Ronald Koeman there, see how it works out.
He is also very inexperienced, isn't he? He's not actually played that many games, Premier League or otherwise. So you can't really expect him to be like a world beater on day one. That is part of the reason why we bought him, isn't it? Because of his potential. He's not the real deal yet, is he? He's going to be, hopefully, but I'm not sure how many games he's got under his belt apart from the 6 he's played for us, but I'm pretty sure it's not that many. So we'll see. We'll see. It's like Woody says, you become a much better player if you don't have to take to the pitch, don't you?
You look at Bazunu. Well, but that City sold Bazunu to Southampton last year, and you look at what happened to Southampton. They've been breeding these goalkeepers at City since Claudio Bravo set foot in the building at the expense of Joe Hart, and it was a gun as well, wasn't there? That went and didn't have a great time of it, and it is tough. Like I say, Muric had a spell at. You ask Nottingham Forest fans about his loan spell, and they don't talk very glowingly of him. But he won Burnley fans round over the length of the season last year.
But it did take a while, though, didn't it? It took a while. I mean, even towards the end of the season when we were romping the Championship, at the odd time I sat in the Bob Lord stand, they were the fucking defibrillator almost had to come out sometimes for a simple pass across his own goal. But the Trafford versus Muric debate, I do think is fueled, as Woody said, by the absence makes the heart grow fonder for Muric. But as you pointed out, Woody, that's in the Championship. We've talked about how much more space you get, how nobody's pressing. If nobody's pressing you, you can put your foot on it. You can ping it Glenn Hoddle style to out to the left, out to the right. I think Trafford's doing fine. I've no problem at all with Trafford. I think he's grown into a really, really good goalkeeper. I'd like his distribution to be better. Of course I would. But, I also think what Muric was like trying to play company ball at the start, and we've not really conceded because of Trafford's distribution, have we? I don't think.
No.
So
we're not, like we did against Blackpool, I think it was under Muric. So I do think, like I say, I'm not getting panicked. I'm not even worried. I'm not even breaking a sweat yet, because I do think that actually everything we're going through now, suddenly when the second half of the season comes, I think we'll be in a much better position. I think we'll pull clear because, I do think there's teams who will get sucked into it. Your Palacers, Palace had a good result at Man United. Yeah, brilliant. They'll get sucked into it because that's Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson's had a bit of effect at the start of the season, but he'll know he's going at the end of next season. They'll get sucked in. I know, Simon, you think Wolves probably won't be there or thereabouts in that bottom 4 or 5, but I agree with Chris. I think they're a woeful side. I think they'll get sucked in. Bournemouth will get sucked in. Everton are going to be there or thereabouts. I think it's us and 6 others maybe. I do expect us, when we click, to be the top of that 6 or 7, if I'm being really honest.
I'm going to quote somebody on Twitter because we're always asking for feedback. So let's have a little bit. This is Megan Mooney on Twitter, who says, "I'm sticking by the BO podcast idea of waiting until the 5th of November and then assess. Luton, Palace, Bournemouth, all a better shout than where we are." So there you go.
I agree. She's absolutely right. You said that last podcast. Well, there's no point in getting his knickers in a twist before bonfire night, is there? I think Chelsea's winnable, weirdly, because they are a shambles.
Who knows what'll happen in that game?
Exactly. We thought about Man United, and had we been slightly better and a little less passive against Man United, and had Lyle Foster, there we go, trumping him up a little bit again. I think we'd have got some out of United, and I think we'll get some out of Chelsea. Luton, I agree with you, Chris. I think there's this expectation that Luton's going to be this rollover. Their tails are going to be. You don't go to Goodison and get a win and then suddenly go and throw all that good work away by turning in a poor performance at home in front of their own fans. They're going to want that first Premier League win at Kenilworth Road. I think it will be tough. Arguably tougher than definitely tougher than Forest. Arguably as tough as Newcastle United.
Here's another bit of feedback. Nicholas Ward says, BO podcast, I think it's worthy of discussion why Zaroury and Benson, I appreciate MB injured now and Zaroury has been suspended, seem to have been so marginalised. Koleosho has been excellent but shouldn't be playing every game, or perhaps should just come on and impact it. Well, we kind of talked a little bit about that, but last season they were our main men out wide, weren't they? Do we think that the fact that we went out and bought so many wingers reflects, and then the team selection since reflects perhaps a little bit of concern from company that those 2 wingers weren't ready to make the step up, or is it just team selection?
Well, why give them the 4-year contracts each? You know, they were like two sort of marquee, new contracts sort of in the summer period. But we all looked at the pre-season. Obviously, we didn't get a look at Benson, but thought Zaroury had shown flashes of quality against good opposition. And then for the team sheet to come through against Manchester City, we were like, where is Zaroury? It just a real, as Sean would say,
that was the big surprise,
head
wasn't
scratcher.
it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then we all know what happens. He gets sent off, and that completely kills any momentum he would hope to get. But to my mind, he's done enough in that little cameo against Salford City to warrant coming on earlier in the game yesterday than Odobert, who admittedly did show good signs himself. But he shouldn't be that far down the pecking order, certainly.
Yeah, I think as well. I think I don't know what it is. I think I don't know. Everything kind of adds to this kind of feeling that we're almost treating these first few games as a chance to blood in new talent and get people experience things like that. And actually, when it matters, we will suddenly switch to Zaroury on one side. And Benson was used more sparingly last season. He was the ultimate impact, weren't he? If you think about the amount of times he came on and affected the game and things like that. I do find it slightly weird that they've been marginalised, but I wonder whether it's a kind of, Company in his kind of wisdom has sat down and gone, first 6 games, anything we get out of them, barring perhaps Forest away as a bonus, we're going to use it to get people a crash course in Premier League experience. And you learn more when you're losing than you ever do when you're winning. So maybe there's a bit of that actually, let's blood this new talent in, but we will see. I think Tuesday night is a real kind of, real kind of test of Company's acumen, a test of whether this team is at a point where, we can compete against the teams in that little mini league we always talk about in the Premier League. And that'll be the really interesting one. If he sticks with what he's gone with so far and it doesn't perform, then we're kind of into the realms of, there's a little bit too much confidence in his system being perfect and getting it right. I personally think, like we saw against Forest, I think it was, when we brought back the likes of Taylor and Brownhill, I think Tuesday night will be a little bit more of, even more of that tried and tested. I fully expect we'll see Zaroury. We'll obviously see Foster. I just, like I say, let's reserve judgment until bonfire night. If we're still on 1 point on bonfire night, I think we're in Paul, Jewell, Derby County style territory. I think.
So we've been down this road before, haven't we? With Sean, Sean's first season in the Premier League. I think it was I think we went 10 games without winning a game, and then Ashley Barnes struck against Hull, and we backed that up a week later at Stoke. But usually in those games, we'd have picked up, we'd have scrapped our way to a few draws, a few 0-0s or something like that. But that's the one concern for me, that you're not picking up anything, at the moment, bar what was still in my mind a win at Nottingham Forest. We've all saw what Darren England's expertise in officiating again yesterday, but I've just no confidence whatsoever in VAR at the moment. But no, it's just we've got to be able to grind
did
out.
we get a written apology within 10 minutes of the
probably,
game?
I've not seen anything.
I don't know.
Not seen anything to suggest we have. If they have,
no, because they were very quick yesterday to make sure they apologised to.
Weren't they just? Yeah. Decent of them.
Justin, would you make what changes do you think we should be looking at making for Luton? Who would you be thinking definitely to bring back in?
Well, obviously Zaroury's the number one name, but I have no idea what he's going to do. He just baffles me with every turn. I think he's got a little bit of that pep about him, where he tries to do something surprising to throw the opposition off a little bit. Sometimes that can backfire because you end up not sort of playing your best players, don't you? If you're not going to do what everybody expects you to do. I think Zaroury needs to come back in straight away. I don't know. I don't know that we've got a lot of options in the back four. Obviously, we've only got one left back. Vitinho for Roberts, maybe give that a go. See how that works out. And obviously, you want to get Lyle Foster back in the team straight away. But apart from that, I don't know. I'm not. There's nobody really who's come in and sort of impressed me to the point where I think they must be a starter. And my opinion of Zaroury is based a lot on what I saw last season. But I just think you're really unlucky if you perform like that in a cup game after being suspended and you don't get a chance to show what you can do. I mean, when did he come on Saturday? There was only about 5 minutes to go, and there was not a possibility of him doing much. So he's what we need. We need to start him because he's got that little bit of creativity and that little bit of vision that can break teams down, and we're definitely going to need that because despite what we're all saying, you know, obviously there are no easy games in this league, and Luton won't be an easy game, but it is one of the games that we are going to have to win if we're going to stay up.
So it's a must win.
Well, we're getting to that point, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like I said last week, you know, it's now 6 games and 1 point, which isn't good enough, isn't it? I mean, despite the quality of the opposition that we've been facing, as Chris says, in the past, you know, you would expect to pick up a few scruffy points, in that run against maybe even against the run of play. You know, you expect to pick a few points up, but just to get nothing. But that 1 point, obviously, that should have been 3. But we get. I think I'm not going to say it's a must win because we've already decided we're going to wait till bonfire night before we make a judgment. But we are getting to that point, aren't we? Where we need to say, look, we need some points on the board.
We need 10, 11 wins in 32 games. Or, you know, it's tough ask.
I think so. Definitely must not lose. And I don't care how we go about it, to be honest with you. I don't think it's necessarily a Tuesday night for flowing, glorious football. We'll go and do the Kenilworth Road thing that we did last year and go and play as ugly and as dirty and as unpleasant as we have to. You know, we have to. I mean, because they, like we've all said, their tails are going to be up. You know. And we've got to go there and try and get a result of some sort. I mean, I think Ramsey had a shocker yesterday. There's no two ways about it. So whether you bring Zaroury back in on the left, whether you drop Amdouni as well and let him play kind of behind Foster, who knows or dares to dream. The nice thing is we've got the option. Obviously, we know on 60 minutes or so we can change it all around and we can play 2 separate sets of strikers almost. But I am slightly worried about Luton.
I think it's that options which we've never had before is great, but I'd like us just to have, you know, like I say, I think it's probably a game for Goodmanson if he's fully fit, just to kind of, you know, he gives that little bit like we saw at Forest. He perhaps wasn't the most effective going forward, but he knows how to recycle a ball. He knows what to do when perhaps other players are getting a little bit excited.
Works his socks off as well.
He does. Koleosho's got that rawness about him. But I'd almost be tempted to bring him in for Ramsey, Zaroury in for Koleosho. You know, obviously then Foster probably for Amdouni. So you are pretty much changing that front 3. And then you've then got Amdouni to bring on. You've got Audebart to bring on. You've got Koleosho to bring on. You've got Ramsey to bring on. You know, I just think we've got to be a bit smarter with that kind of changing things a bit quicker. And to his credit, you know, Company did change things initially early on, bringing Audebart on, Audebert on and things like that. But I just think there's Kenilworth Road, Luton away. It's the first championship-esque match of the season. And you almost kind of go, well, what worked last year from a championship point of view? You know, the players they are championship quality. We are showing ourselves at the minute to be championship quality. You know, it's the first championship match of the season, so you've got to go out and win it. Josh Brownhill, I just checked the quotes on Josh Brownhill. You know, it's the games we've got to win. You know, we played Forest a few weeks ago and put out really good performance. Probably should have come away with 3 points. Tuesday will be no different. You know, they're seeing it as, you know, these are games we've got to win. If you're going to stay up, you've got to win these games.
Absolutely.
And the manager's also got to be pragmatic around that. You know, you almost abandon the project for certain games and go, right, you know what, forget it, because actually 3 points will take us up to 4 points, will lift us out of that relegation zone if results go our way, but will start to give us a bit of that momentum. In fact, we will get lifted, won't we? Because it's the rearranged fixture. So all we're doing is playing catch up. So, you know, that all of a sudden going into an international break, going into Chelsea, sorry, I should say. Chelsea, then the pressure is a bit off against Chelsea. Then we go into that international break. I'd really, really love to go into that international break with 4 points, you know, or at minimum 3 points at least. Draw against Luton, draw against Chelsea. You know, if we can get a bit of momentum, it feels like all the momentum we got from a positive result against Forest, a positive performance, if not a result against United, a routing of Salford, suddenly the wind just got taken out of our sails in the most ridiculous way against Newcastle.
I think one of the problems when it comes to like team selection is that you just outlined all the options that we've got there, and there's players we haven't even mentioned. You know that we could. You know, do you look to someone like Redmond to come in for a game like that? That's going to be a bit more physical. You might need a bit more nous about you. You know, we've got Masanga who never even been. We haven't even seen yet really.
Played for the under-21s, didn't he? Well, for the with Cherlinov and
all these options are great. What we don't have is certain players who you say, well, he's definitely got to play. I mean, there's almost nobody in that squad who you'd be shocked if you left out. Really, I mean, maybe some of the defenders. I'd be shocked if you left out Bayer. You know, but we could be leaving out the right back. We could be changing all our midfielders, all our wingers, and all our attackers, and none of us would be up in arms. How on earth has he done that? You know, how has he left that player out? There's just at the moment, there's not enough players have played well enough in 2 or 3 games to be fixtures in that team. There just aren't. You know,
probably Bar Foster, but who's by his own error cost him 3 games at a time when he was, you know, the shining light in 2 or 3 games on the spin.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Rest of the Premier League, anything guys catch your eye over the weekend apart from, let's not do the VAR Liverpool nonsense, because there's going to be like a week's worth of media coverage of that because it's Liverpool. But
Villa again. Villa look a good side. I mean, Emery's a great manager. We said that. They were very good against us. Very, very tidy. I know. I know it's kind of been a little bit up and down, and we said, didn't we, first week of the season, Newcastle's performance against them, whatever match day week it was. But, you know, we've all held Brighton up as this kind of bastion of progress and brilliant, and they were sitting 3rd in the table. You know what? De Villa then sneak into the top 4. We talked about the middle section getting stronger. I think what it is, you know, United getting beat at home, Chelsea being as poor as they are. You know, the top 6, some of the top 6 are getting weaker, but actually some of that middle ground are now becoming genuine top 6, top 7 teams. And Villa, for me, you know, they snuck into Europe last year. I know my old boss is a Villa fan, and he was a bit like, you know, I said to him, oh, you'll be in Europe at this stage. No, I'm not sure if we'll quite get there. Them, to me, look fantastic. Ollie Watkins' second hat-trick of the season, albeit the first one against Hibs in the Europa League, Conference League, whatever they're in, but 2 hat-tricks for Ollie Watkins, not even out of September yet. At that point, we are now.
Ramsey looked good for Villa as well, didn't he? Yeah.
Ramsey Jr. Yeah. I say I watched quite a bit of the Everton game against Luton just for a bit of a sighter ahead of Tuesday, and Everton. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Sean at the moment, and the home form's wretched. You know, it shows that that cup tie coming up is eminently winnable, like we suggested it was last week. But they were unlucky for me. Everton, they've created enough, to have been 2 or 3-0 up in the game before conceding to two sloppy goals from set pieces. But the set piece goal, it's all about desire. We talk about possession football and pace and power. Desire. The desire from Lockyer to get to the ball first and turn the ball in for what proved a pivotal goal. You can't buy that. It's fabulous. Ashley Young's been seeing it all. He's just beaten by a player who wants to get to the ball first and score his team a critical goal. The second goal was nicely taken, and they've managed to hold on. But I think I say Everton, they just, even with Calvert-Lewin and Beto, they're really short of a goal threat. And I think they're going to be one of the sides that are in and around at the end of the season, I'm afraid, or not afraid.
Right. Well, that gets us to the end of this debrief on Newcastle Burnley, and a little bit of a look ahead to Tuesday's game at Kenilworth Road against Luton. When we come back with you next, we'll be reviewing that game at Luton, and it does feel like a big one. It does feel like a significant one. So next time we talk, it'll be looking back at Luton and looking ahead to Chelsea. Thanks very much indeed to all the team, as always, and thank you for listening. Please, I do say this all the time, let people know about the podcast. We are flying up the charts again. We are getting more and more people listening to the podcast, and that's because people are passing it on. Word of mouth and the WhatsApp to a friend is as good as anything else. But you can follow us, of course, on social media at B-Hole Podcast. And I noticed, having a look as well, there's been a couple of reviews trickling in. They do help boost us and boost our profile. So any reviews you can leave on your podcast service will always help us. Thanks very much for listening. Speak to you again soon, and all the best.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson.